Welcome to Her Drive Podcast, a female-focused interview series with women of the world discussing their road trips to success. I'm your host, Cindy Kremblett, a travel expert, business owner, and curious spirit with a knack for meeting fascinating women. Please join me as I hop in the passenger seat and chat with these ambitious women about what drives them, twists and turns, and those pedal to the metal moments. Let's drive. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Her Drive Podcast. I'm pumped about today's guest. She's a fellow podcaster, but Emily Jane Sarroff. Thank you. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you on board and to be talking all about being a mindset coach and what all of that entails. So let's dive right in. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Amazing. So kind of introduce what it is that you're doing and how impactful that is for you and for your clients.
For sure. So I've been in the coaching space for about 2.5 years now. When I first started my business, I had initially come in and entered as a mindset coach. And then within my first year of business, I grew really rapidly. And so then naturally decided to make the transition into the business coaching space as well. So now what I do is I specifically work with entrepreneurs, whether you're an existing business owner or you're an aspiring business owner, and I help them in building out the foundations of their business so that they can be creating a beautiful, abundant, and aligned online coaching business, from a place of ease and flow and alignment rather than hustle. Because when my journey, was when I was going through those first few years of my journey, I had experienced both sides of the scale, building a business from a place of hustle and burnout, and then transitioning to building a business that came from a place of alignment and flow. And so now my mission is to really help entrepreneurs create that level of success they want to create, but doing it in a way that is in alignment with who they are, how they want to be feeling, and what their values are also.
All of that is so critical. And as a fellow business owner, I very much can relate to the phase of my life where it was like grind, baby. And, everyone, and when I started my business years ago, Gary Vee was super popular, and he was basically like, work your fucking asses off and blah, blah, blah. It's like, until you're dead, like, don't sleep, just grind. And it's so great to now hear the conversation kind of shift. And I don't know if it's because we're older or society is changing. I'd like to think it's a combination of both, but more of the latter.
Yeah.
But I think it's so amazing that you made that transformation relatively quickly and are able to help others do the same.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think honestly, like a large factor of why there was so much of that hustle culture is because, the entrepreneurial space was like very heavily male dominant for so long. And so as females stepping into the space, like we think that that's how it has to be. We have to build our business the way that these men do in order to succeed. And then I think there's a lot more female business owners and business coaches entering the space that are like, actually, this way of building a business just is not in alignment with me as a woman and how I want to feel and how I want to grow. And so I think that's why there's also a big shift happening, is because there are so many more spiritually led and also like feminine led business owners in the space that are showing that, hey, you can still succeed at this high level, but it doesn't need to be in this, previously heavily masculine way.
That's such a valid point that I hadn't thought of before, about the masculine versus the feminine ways in which they show up in life in general, let alone in business. And so many business-minded women have very much been operating from that masculine standpoint. And I agree with you. There's definitely this transition, not just within female business owners, but I think just in women in general, like, oh, we want to be more soft. We want to go feel into our feelings and our intuitive powers and what is actually showing up, because that is such a good guiding force for all of us.
Yeah.
And I would love to know a bit more about your personal journey, like wherever you want to start the genesis of your story and how it's kind of led you to where you are now. And then we can definitely dive in more to, the feminine conversation.
Yeah. For For sure. Well, I mean, I've only really been on this business journey for 2.5, coming on to 3 years almost now. I was 22 when I started my business journey. And at that point in time, I was studying my Masters of Architecture still. And I was also working a job in the architecture industry as well. And so I had been on that path for like almost 6 years. Straight after high school, I went straight to university, and that was like the path that I had planned out for myself and I had been so dedicated to. But in that like final year of my master's, I just felt this extreme amount of emotional turmoil. Like I knew deep down I didn't want to be on that path that I was on. I wasn't passionate about what I was doing. Sure, I was good at it. Sure, I was getting great grades. Sure, I already had a job secured, but I just wasn't passionate about it.
Mhm.
And so the idea of staying on that path, for the next 5 to 10 years was just creating this massive conflict within myself. And so I started to ask myself the question of, well, who am I doing this for and why am I still doing it? And I realized that the reason I was, pushing to finish my degree and work in the industry that I was working in was for everyone but myself. It was for my parents, it was for my boss. It was because that's what society had told me that I needed to do. And at the time, I had just started my podcast, which is the Empower With Them podcast. And that was really a passion project for me. That was a way for me to be documenting my personal development journey and, like, how I was navigating that part in my life. And then I realized that I was just pouring so much of my time and energy into that. And that was what was lighting me up. So I really had this choice then of, do I want to spend the next 6 months finishing my master's and getting that piece of paper? Or do I want to drop everything now and just lean heavier into this podcast and see how I could potentially turn this into something that I could build a career around? And so to me, 6 months on a path that I felt out of alignment with just sounded like absolute torture. So I was like, okay, the answer is clear. I'm going to drop out of my master's. I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to put a plan in place and see what I can make work. And so it was just 8 months after starting my business, I was able to grow it to 6 figures. And that was like that affirmation I needed that, okay, this is what I'm meant to be doing. So that was really, that first transitional period that I went through. And then after reaching that 6 figures, as we had spoken about just before, I had heavily lent into the hustle culture, in that point of my journey. And so what I found once I had made my first 100K was I was just now out of alignment in this thing that I was once so aligned with. And then that was creating so much frustration for me because I'm like, but I thought this is what I was meant to be doing. Why doesn't it feel good anymore? And so then that opened up the doors to that second stage in like my spiritual journey and business journey of refinding my alignment in business, which then brought me to this point of now, helping other entrepreneurs find that alignment from the beginning. So then they don't have to go through that same process that I went through.
Oh, that's also beautifully stated. And I'm really curious, how did you have the wherewithal, I would say, to actually have those really important conversations with yourself around at such a young age of like, wow, this is not for me. This is not in alignment. I'm
Mm.
so close to just finishing. And most people would just finish, right? And then go do whatever just as a
Yeah.
backup plan. So is there someone you can accredit like learning that from, or is that just something you learned in your own journey?
I think there's always been people around me who have supported me in my own growth and transformation. I was grateful that I was connected with some beautiful people because when I was in university, I had tapped into the network marketing space, which was my first experience with the business world. And from there, I've still got some lifelong friends that I made from that experience who were a big figure in like helping me tap deeper into my own personal development journey as well, sharing podcasts and different books. And so I was very tapped into, whether it was directly or indirectly, I was tapped into people who were, talking about self-awareness and talking about these sorts of shifts and creating, the life that you wanted for yourself. And so I think that was a big help for me in finding the courage, because I did on the other side of things also have the total opposite, where there were people that weren't even, a fraction of the way into their personal development journey. I mean, my family, none of them really knew anything about personal development. my co-workers, my friends at university, they were like in this whole other world, right? They were in that 9 to 5 world. Whereas then on the other side, I was surrounded by people who were more so in this personal development space and, entrepreneurial space. So it was kind of like I saw both sides of the scale. And so I did have some people who were sort of putting some projections on me about like their fears and their concerns with the steps. But then at the same time, it was balanced out by people who were supporting and believing in sort of what I was coming up with. So I definitely would say there was people around me supporting me, but also at the same time, I just really lent into self trust as well. And I was like, if this is coming up for me now, it's coming up for a reason. And the age factor too, I was like, I'm young, like take the risks. I've got my whole life ahead of me to be able to clean up the mess if it goes wrong anyway.
That is such a wise statement. And so many people think I have to get on this path on these train tracks and I can't jump off because if I
Mm,
jump off, I am intentionally derailing myself and this will be follow me for the rest of my life. But you understand the
mm.
the grace of youth.
Yes. But even
Mhm.
with that, right? Like, I feel like it doesn't matter where you're at in life, you can always pick yourself back up again, right? And even if you are, like starting to take that first step, maybe you're in your 30s or your 40s or your 50s, you've got so much life experience behind you and so much knowledge and wisdom. Like, you're so much more resourceful than you think you are. And so it's never too late to, I mean, I guess, fuck everything up and then be able to start again, right?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you have to have that rupture, before you can rapture.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Amazing. So you said you had to put a plan in place. So what did that look like for you?
Bit of a vague plan, to be honest. I remember saying to myself, I'm going to give myself 90 days to figure it out. And so for 90 days, I just kind of like, hit the drawing board, would do some brainstorms of, okay, we've got this podcast. What can I do? I could do merchandise. I could do courses and, just starting to brainstorm everything off there. And I really also heavily lent into my social media across those 90 days as well. And focused on building my community, connecting with them, understanding like where they're at, what they're looking for, and really like, I guess, studying what I already had going on. And then I'm a very creative person naturally. So I really just invested those 90 days into like looking at what's happening, looking at what, I'm feeling inspired to lean into and just seeing how I could make that work. And it was really funny because by the end of that 90 days, I ended up, becoming crystal clear on this idea that, okay, I'm going to start a coaching business. I'm going to become a mindset coach and all of this. And I actually had no idea how to actually start my coaching business. And I had no idea how to coach someone because I had never done it before. But again, I had my intention set on this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to trust that I'm going to figure out how to make it work. And it was at that end of the 90 days, 2 weeks before I was leaving my job forever, that I came across my first coach. And I feel like that was very divinely timed of like, I had set the intention. This is what I wanted to do. I didn't know the how, but I trusted that I was going to figure out how. And then that coach aligned with me and I ended up investing my entire savings into this coach, which was another risk in itself, right? Because I had been saving towards that moment. I'd leave my job so that I'd have that security blanket to lean into. But I knew deep down that hiring a coach would be a bigger and more valuable security blanket than just having that money sitting in my bank account, right? So that was very divinely timed in when they came in. And from there, it was really amazing because they were able to give me the blueprint to then be able to follow and then grow and actually reach those goals I wanted to reach.
Hmm, that is beautiful. I love that. It didn't sound like you knew when you gave yourself the 90 days what you were actually going to do. Is that correct, Em?
Yeah, that's correct. I knew I was going to figure it out. I knew it was going to be something around, podcasting and social media, but I didn't know exactly what it was. But that was, some people would find that a bit scary. I found that really exciting because when I was still in my degree, I didn't have any space to even think of what I wanted to be doing because all of my time and energy was being poured into, assignments and exams and all of that. And so to step away from that and just have 90 days of just the unknown, right? That was an awesome space to actually allow ideas and thoughts to come through and allow me to actually experiment and see, like, okay, what is it that I want to be leaning into now? So I think it's a good reminder that you don't always need to have everything figured out or know exactly what you want to be doing when you do take the leap, because sometimes taking that leap really does create that space for you to actually get clear on what it is you want to do next.
So powerful and also terrifying for many people.
Very.
So what's the advice for people who are kind of in that space now? They're like teetering because some people like need to keep their jobs, right?
Yeah.
Work while they're shifting into something new.
Mm.
They can't just completely cut off. So what would you say to people like that?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, going all in doesn't necessarily mean throwing everything away from the get go. And a lot of my clients that work with me actually are transitioning out of their 9 to 5 jobs as well. And I don't usually suggest to anyone to do what I did, right? Unless that's something that intuitively you're being guided to do, right? You can 100% go all in on your business and still hold on to your 9 to 5 job. But what I would suggest to do is put a plan in place. Like, what is your escape plan essentially? When do you want to be out by? What do you need to put in place to be able to make that shift? What do you need to financially have in place? And so on, like, really have a look at how you can make that transition the most possible for you. It's okay to take calculated risks when you are going through these transitions, and a calculated risk might look like handing in your letter of resignation, but also maybe you just dropping down to casual instead of being full time, or maybe you leave the job that you're in now and you pick up another little side part time job that's going to support you while you are still getting the ball rolling on your business. So if you are scared about making that transition and taking that leap right now, the best advice I could give you is to just trust yourself. Because when you do trust yourself, some of that fear does start to go away, because you know that, okay, I am resourceful, I am going to figure it out, I am going to back myself. And when you do back yourself, things naturally begin to fall into place for you.
Mm, you're so right. Every time I've made like a little step, the universe always aligns, you know?
Mm,
It's beautiful. And the more you recognize those synchronicities, those little winks, the more they come in, right?
yes,
Mhm.
exactly that.
How beautiful. So, can we dive a bit more into like the transformation? You've now determined I'm going to become a coach. I'm going to hire a coach to give me this blueprint, and then what was the process for you there, and then leading into where you are now?
Yeah. So once I had hired that coach, obviously I had invested, my full, I didn't have a lot of savings, but I had managed to save up $10,000 before I had quit my job. And I invested that entire 10K into a coach. So for me, it was like, okay, now what I need to do is start making money and start making money fast. So when I did step into that coaching program, like, I was there to put in the work. I was there to show up. I had created that sense of urgency for myself that I needed in order to take the action, in order to see the results that I wanted to see. And I think that's something that sometimes people forget to put in place, is that sense of urgency that is going to drive you to take the action. Because at the end of the day, it is up to you as to whether or not you're going to make that investment turn into a return or not. It is not necessarily, yes, there is a level of responsibility that your mentor has for providing you with that return, in terms of giving you the resources, holding you accountable, giving you the support, whatever that contract looks like between the two of you. But at the end of the day, it is up to you to put in the work and to deliver on your end of the contract so that you can see the results. And that was something that I understood from the get go. And I really believe that's why I did see the results that I saw from that coaching program that I tapped into.
Mhm. It sounds like you're someone who is very self motivated.
I can be at times, but I'm only human, so at times I also can't be.
Interesting. Okay. What do you think motivates you most?
Mm. At that point in time, it was getting out of that career path I was in. Like, I
Mm,
did not want to go back. I did not want to go back to uni. I did not want to go back to that 9 to 5 job. And so at that point in time, that was what motivated me, was just the fact that I did not want to go backwards. Now what motivates me is entirely different, and it's now that I've been able to create, that stability and security for myself within the business that I have. It's now about creating a deeper sense of freedom for myself.
Mm.
And that freedom, not just being connected to finances, but more so being connected to experiences and time, and just feeling like I'm able to be present in life instead of constantly watching life roll by or constantly working life away, right? So my motivations definitely have shifted, but I guess it still really does come down to that core of the lifestyle element for me.
Mhm. Keyword is freedom, and so
Mm,
many people define freedom very vaguely, like
yeah,
financial freedom is what we hear so often,
yeah.
but your definition of freedom is multifaceted, and I totally understand it and align with that, and the beautiful thing, as you said, is being present
Yeah.
in life, not just watching other people live life and like
Mhm,
pining for like that, but being able to self-create your own current now moment.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly that. Exactly that. And it's funny because it's something that I have to keep on coming back to as I do move through this like journey through business and life, is just constantly revisiting like what does freedom actually mean to me, and also asking that honest question of like, am I experiencing this? Like what are my values? What do I value about freedom? And am I currently living my life in alignment with that? And I think there's times where I really am living my life in alignment with that. And then again, there's always times that I'm not. But that's the thing about alignment, is you are going to go in and out of it through different phases of your life based off different experiences you have, and it's just about having that self-awareness to keep checking back in so that you can start to make those adjustments as you need to.
So magical. Interesting. So do you have any habits, rituals, etc., that you initiate daily, weekly, monthly, annually?
Mm. So my habits and my rituals tend to change as well, depending on the seasons that I'm going through. At the moment, I'm in an interesting season because I'm kind of in transition right now. I'm 9 days away from moving to Canada for 6 months. So I'm in this like middle place at the moment where it's like I'm packing up my old life here and I'm starting to project and like step into this new life that's going to be there. So I feel like my habits and rituals or routines are a little bit all over the place at the moment. But the one thing that I have been very grounded in is just creating space for presence every single morning. So the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I give myself a solid like 2 hours before I start my workday to just be and take things slowly, and just sit outside on the balcony and watch the sunrise and drink a tea, like that for me is just so grounding to start my day with that, and it just always guarantees that I have that bit of space for myself before I'm pouring into others. And that's something that for that first half of my business journey I really lacked, because I thought I had to sacrifice those things in order to grow, but then I realized actually you see more growth when you honor those little rituals, or daily routines that fill up your cup before you're pouring into others.
Mhm. So magical. I am not always able to have the slow mornings, but I can certainly feel a difference in how the day flows with grace on
Mm,
the mornings where it's like a very slow start. And I like to like wake up, restroom, meditate of some style, then go sit out on my balcony, get some like sunshine into my eyes. I have a cat, so I'm like petting her. I'm reading a book. Sometimes I'm reading two different books. I try to read a chapter from each. One is usually like
yeah.
soul feeding, and the other one is like mind feeding.
Yeah.
Journaling, having a tea or a coffee or something, and then having like a full breakfast is
Mm,
really enriching. And there's days when we wake up and we grab the phone and like going through emails and like hopping into
mm.
the process where you just have to run out the door is not as fun as a day.
That's
For
right.
sure.
Like
Mm.
totally giving yourself that little bit of space at the start of the day makes such a massive difference.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So you're relocating to Canada for a while. That's going to be fun. What part of
Yeah.
Canada?
So I'm going to be based in Calgary, and then because I've got a girlfriend who is from Canada that lives there, so I'm going to move in with her, and then from there I'm just going to like pop around, visit all the other major sites within Canada as well, and just really leaving it open. That's one thing in particular about that next 6 months is I'm not trying to be overly structured or overly planned with it anymore. I just want to be open to seeing like what experiences come up and where I'm taken across that journey.
So magical, and there's going to be such beautiful synchronicities that unfold for you. In Calgary, I'm very familiar with Canada, even though I'm an American. But Calgary is a great place because you're so close to the Rocky Mountains, Banff,
Yes.
Louise. All of that is gorgeous.
That's exactly what I've heard. And honestly, I've done like a little bit of Googling into Calgary, but I haven't done too much because I kind of want to like I wanna leave it as a surprise, like, I've never done any international travel myself before, so this is my first experience, and I just don't know what to expect from any of it, and I think I always have been someone who tries to be overly controlling and have everything figured out, and this is just really the first time where I'm like, "You know what? Sometimes experiences are far better when you release that control, you don't, like, try to be overly prepared, and instead you just, like, allow yourself to be surprised, by whatever it has to offer."
That's so brilliant, and a good way of allowing that is not Googling or like not hyper planning everything.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to learn that
Yes.
lesson in the last few years. 'Cause I'm a Virgo, and we like things very structured, and like a trauma response for me was like have everything planned out. And then my former life was in trip design and taking people on vacation and being
Yep.
very in charge of everything and like always thinking about different things that could happen if something went wrong. And it's a
Yep.
hard unwiring to do. So I applaud you in being able to rewire yourself and allow for these magical moments that are surely about to come full force.
Yes, thank you. I feel like this is going to be a major, like, spiritual experience for me going overseas and traveling for the first time because I really am having to like break out of this bubble, this comfort zone that I've been in literally my whole life here in Australia because I've always very much lived in the same place, been around the same people, and so I know that this is going to just be a massive journey of like self-discovery and growth for me, so I'm just ready to embrace that.
Fantastic. I look forward to seeing what unfolds for you. And kind of going back into the coaching thing, I feel like a lot of people think that they can read books and like workshop their way through books. Well, so, I think first people just read the book. They don't always like workshop the book.
Mm,
And some people that have that like, okay, I'll just read this book or I'll watch these YouTube videos and I'll be good.
mm,
Which I think can help people make some change, but I am someone who loves courses, loves coaches. Like, I think because I used to do the other things and they helped. But for those who kind of have that idea of like, maybe I want to hire a coach, but I don't know if it's worth the investment, how do you kind of articulate the benefit of having a coach?
mm. Obviously, there's so many resources that you can access for free in this world. Like you can go onto Google, you can get books, you can watch free trainings, you can overconsume on social media. There are resources everywhere that can teach you certain things to help you with building your business. But what you're not going to get out of them is physically having someone there with you, watching over you through that implementation stage and actually helping you course correct along the way. And I really do believe that that's one of the most valuable things about having a mentor is you have someone who is already where you want to be and you have their eyes looking over everything it is that you are implementing and integrating, and they're actually helping you highlight like errors as they're coming up quickly and adjusting and resolving, and that way so you can move forward and you can actually fast track your success and reduce the effort and sacrifice required to get there. So yes, whilst you can find all the resources and all the information on the internet yourself for free, you're never going to be able to get that second set of eyes looking over and helping you course correct and move on the path with least resistance.
That's very well stated. And there's a lot of coaches out there.
Mm.
So how does one know which coach is right for them?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's always been a thing of energy. Like when I'm sort of looking to see what coaches do I want to be working with, I really look for like that energetic alignment, but also that like value alignment as well, I think is really important. It's kind of like you're dating, right? Like when you're looking for your ideal partner, like you're looking to match your energy with someone, you're looking to align your values with someone. It's the same when you're looking for the right coach. And so a lot of the time when I do have enrollment calls with prospective clients, like I can tell from the instance that they get on the call whether or not we're an energetically aligned match. And if it's not an energetically aligned match, then I'm not going to pitch them my offer because I know they're not going to get the most out of that experience if we aren't in alignment on that energetic level. And so that's a really massive thing to be looking for if you are trying to find a coach is paying attention to the energy because again, like whilst different coaches do have different methodologies for when it comes to like building businesses or helping you with your mindset and all of that, at the end of the day, a lot of what is taught can be taught by someone else as well, but it's that energetic match and how you align with that coach or that mentor's personal journey that is going to be that big point of difference and ultimately like completely transform that experience that you do have with them.
Mm, so brilliantly stated, and I love that you automatically know when someone's not really a good fit for
Yeah.
your style, your energy, whereas seems like some people might, especially when they're first starting out, just take any client that they can,
Yeah.
right? Ugh. Were you like that initially, or have you always been like, "No, I don't think so?"
Yeah, so here's the thing. Like there was always that thought that would pop up of be like, oh, coming from that place of scarcity, but oh, I need this client because I need this money because I don't want to go back to my 9 to 5 or because I got to pay bills. But deep down, I know it's going to be a disservice to me and it's going to be a disservice to them also if I was to move forward with someone who isn't in alignment on that energetic level. Because I know that that's, if I accept them and if I bring them in just because I want the money, then that's going to come and bite me back in the bum in some other shape or form down the track, whether that be, a negative review or demanding a refund or anything like that. So I kind of look at both sides of the scale and I weigh it up. And for me, it's not worth taking someone's money if I don't feel like we're in alignment because there's going to be lots of consequences for both parties. And I've never been someone who likes to create problems for anyone, and I try to always lead with people's best interest in mind as
Mhm. Mm, yeah, that all sounds really nice and, quite beautifully aligned with good intentions, so amazing. So, can you tell us a little bit more about, like, your coaching, what you offer currently?
So the core offer that I have in place right now is my Aligned Coaching Academy, and this is my business mastermind for entrepreneurs who are wanting to build the foundations of their business and grow towards their first 6 figures as well. And so inside of this mastermind, I have a trifecta coaching framework which we focus on, which looks at first of all providing the mindset support for my students as I am a Jay Shetty certified life coach. So then that way I support them in whatever mindset hurdles are coming up for them in their entrepreneurial journey. The second pillar is obviously providing them the business framework, which is proven to have my clients signing high ticket clients of their own within 30 days of implementing. And then the third pillar is focused on coaching skills development. So something I really aim to do, especially, because a lot of my clients are brand new coaches coming into the space, is actually equipping them with the tools they need to then be able to coach their clients to be able to see a transformation as well. So we focus on those 3 core areas inside of the academy and really support all entrepreneurs who are coming and joining us in this beautiful space to create a business in alignment, not just with how they want their finances and their business to look, but also with how they want their lifestyle to look and feel as well. So that's my Aligned Coaching Academy, and that is probably my favorite means of supporting entrepreneurs.
How interesting. And are most of your clients, they're entrepreneurs that are coaches?
Yeah, so coaches and consultants specifically who I serve in this space. We've got a lot of mindset coaches, fitness coaches, and like marketing consultants. We do have some UGC clients who have joined us recently as well. So really within that coaching and consulting space.
How beautiful. Well, what else can you tell me about coaching before I switch to a few personal questions?
Yeah, for sure. So, coaching in the sense of like what I do with my clients, or
Sure.
yeah. So, something that I really value, or I guess I really prioritize when it comes to my coaching containers, because I have been through quite a few mentorship programs myself. I've always like ensured that I have been investing in my own personal development across the last 2.5 years as well. And so some of those containers that I would become a part of were quite large. And I think this is something that we see a lot within the coaching space at the moment, is because masterminds in particular are so great for scalability. Sometimes you can find yourself getting lost inside of a crowd inside of these programs. So based off those experiences I've had in the past, I've really like looked from that, me being the client perspective, and seeing what did I like about this space versus what didn't I like about this space. What did I found really propelled me forward, and what did I feel really held me back? And so having that like personal experience, I've really brought that into my coaching containers as well, to ultimately provide a better experience for any client that does come through with me as well. So something I really do focus on is that intimacy inside of my mastermind, and ensuring that there is a cap of 10 students at any one time in these containers, so that everyone does have that close proximity and access to me, but also to one another, and there's that extra depth of connection that can be formed in there. So that would be the final thing that I'd probably share on that.
How beautiful to actually think critically about what you wish a program had included.
Mhm.
Pain points are so important, I think, in any type of business, or even thinking about if you want to start a business. Well, what pain points do you have personally, right?
Mm,
Okay, are these solvable for other people? Do other people have this pain point? Okay, can this make me money? Yeah,
yeah.
okay. But for you and your coaching, it sounds like it just really creates this beautiful space again with people who are going to be aligned with your
Mm,
energy and how you like to show up in life. So I
mm.
applaud you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. And I guess this is probably my final question, and it's my favorite one. If you could go back in time and tell a younger you some words of advice, what age would you be and what would you say?
Oh, this is a big one. I'm gonna like bypass, the last few years, and I'm gonna jump all the way back to like maybe 18-year-old me, because at the moment with my personal growth journey, I'm really working on building my self-esteem, because I realized coming out of a very toxic relationship last year, I realized that I've got some very deep self-esteem wounds that need healing. And a lot of those like big experiences that I had that like would deepen those wounds or create certain beliefs around my self-esteem and my worth and all of that really did stem when I first started entering the dating world when I was 18. And so I'd go back to 18-year-old me, and I would tell her that, she's so worthy as she is, and doesn't need to seek that validation through other people, because she is already enough just as she is in that moment.
Well stated. I wish we could all embody that fully 100% of our lives.
Mm,
Mm,
completely.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, And before we go, can you just let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, I'm super easy to find. I'm basically Empower with M on all platforms. So if you want to go check out my podcast, it's Empower with M. And if you want to come find me on Instagram, that is where I hang out the most. And again, it's just Empower with M over on Instagram. You can come say hi, and I've got a ton of free resources that I'm happy to link anyone's way if you want to jump into my DMs and ask for them.
So beautiful. And I'll link to this, of course, in the show notes, everybody. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share a bit about your personal story, your coaching, and I'm really excited to witness your travels and how it all unfolds for you in such a beautiful and magical way. Thank you so much, Em.
Thank you. It was such a fun conversation. I appreciate you holding this space for me.
My pleasure, love.
Thanks for listening to Her Drive with Cindy Kramblatt. If you want to know more about today's guest or know a fascinating woman you'd love for me to interview, please see the show notes, visit Instagram or her-drive.com. And please, 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 if you love the show, leave a review on iTunes. Thanks for riding along, and subscribe to join our next woman and her drive to success.